Yes, trustees, do you want to?
I guess we should ask for a motion to approve the bill.
Yes.
And a second?
Second.
And do we have any discussion? Hearing none, would you call for roll? You'll all be
Yes.
glad to get rid of me this next year.
Trustees, when I call your name, could you please state your vote? And just a reminder for those to hear on Zoom to turn on your mics, please. Chair Uvala,
Approve?
Vice Chair Chen,
Approve.
Trustee Chaudhry,
Approve.
Trustee Johnson,
Approve.
Trustee Moore,
Approve.
Trustee Price Jones,
Approve.
Trustee Stanton Buttram,
Approve.
Trustee Gwynn.
Approve.
Chair Uvala, the motion passes.
Thank you very much. Our first item of business tonight is or this afternoon is the consent agenda, and it consists of approval of the minutes of the March 12th Board of Trustees public session and the March 12th Board of Trustees closed session, along with the procurement that you saw in your pre-reads on the approval of the award of contract for walkway replacement. So I would entertain,
Main motion?
yes.
The main motion in front of the board is that the Board of Trustees approve the minutes of the March 12, 2024 Board of Trustees public session meeting, the minutes of the March 12, 2024 Board of Trustees closed session meeting, and the award of contract for the walkway replacement between Truxell Library Schwartz Student Union and the Ludlam Hall located on the Arnold campus to Hayes Construction of Phoenix, Maryland, in the amount not to exceed $556,047.
Again, that was already pre-approved by the Facilities Committee. Do we have such a motion?
So moved.
So moved. Second? Second, all right. Any discussion? Hearing none, Monica, would you call for the vote, please?
Yes, trustees, when I state your name, could you please state your vote? Chair Uvala,
Approve?
Vice Chair Chen,
Approve.
Trustee Chaudhry,
Approve.
Trustee Johnson,
Approve.
Trustee Moore,
Approve.
Trustee Price Jones,
Approve.
Trustee Stanton Buttram,
Approve.
Trustee Gwynn,
Approve.
Chair Uvala, the motion passes.
Thank you. We'll start with our board our board committee meetings. There's no chair report this month. And the first is our Board Development Committee, Trustee Price Jones.
Good afternoon, everyone. Just a few reminders. As previously reported, the Board Development Committee members would like to remind trustees about a couple upcoming activities in April and May. The first one, to fulfill the board's goal to participate in an annual Anne Arundel County Community College Board Workshop and to support the board's diversity, equity, inclusion, anti-racism, and accessibility goal. The committee has scheduled a professional development training for Tuesday, May 14th, immediately after the Board of Trustees public session meeting. Dinner will be provided. The topic will be accessibility training facilitated by the college's Chief Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Officer, Dr. Kelly McCants Price, and her colleagues. More details will be sent to board members as soon as they are available. Lastly, a few other reminders. Please save the date, Friday, August 9th from 9 to 1 for the board retreat. This will be confirmed once the new board members are appointed and we can check their schedules. Please update your board goal completion tracking sheet document that is included in the board materials under the Board Development Committee report. And Chair Uvala, if there are no other questions, this concludes my report.
Any questions? Thank you. The next will be the Board Policy Oversight Committee, Vice Chair Dr. Chen.
Thank you. The committee met on April 8th to review one policy, the Religious Accommodations Policy, which is presented to the board as an information item for tonight's meeting. The Maryland General Assembly enacted a law that required public institutions to adopt a written policy that provides reasonable academic accommodations for students to practice sincerely held faith-based or religious beliefs before July 1, 2023. In May 2023, the Board Policy Oversight Committee received consensus from the board for the president to create and approve a policy on an interim basis, as the college did not have enough time for the policy to be vetted through the review process and be in compliance with the law. The religious accommodations policy describes the rights of employees, applicants, and students to request and receive religious accommodations in accordance with the college's policies and relevant laws and regulations regarding religious beliefs. This policy will be presented to the board as an action item at the May 14th meeting. Unless there are any questions, this concludes my report.
Do we have any questions for Dr. Chen? Okay.
Yeah, so I have a question. So what this policy is just like to give them a space for worship, or what this policy is?
This, Tiffany, do you want to? Sure. Okay.
So this policy is, it requires the institution to adopt a written policy that provides reasonable academic accommodations for those students to practice their sincerely held faith-based or religious beliefs. It is not specifically around spaces for students. It is more aligned with students being able to request academic adjustments in the classroom or other learning or student service experiences on the basis of their sincerely held faith-based beliefs.
It's still not clear. So it means like if it is like some kind of like right now is Eid holidays and the person need to take a day off, so the college have to accommodate that holiday, or mean not clear about this policy.
I didn't hear it correctly.
Can you guys hear me?
I'm sorry, I want to make sure that I understood all of your questions. You're asking with respect to... I'm sorry. I want to make sure I understood your question. You're asking with respect to religious observances and students being able to observe a religious holiday or have an accommodation. Yes, that would be included.
Okay, that will be good. Okay, yeah. Thanks for clarifying.
Any other questions? Thank you. We'll move on next to Facilities Committee, and that's Trustee Moore.
The committee met via Zoom on April 2nd to discuss the following topics: the April procurement, future procurements, and campus projects. The committee also discussed future meetings. First, the committee discussed the procurement that was on our agenda for approval tonight. Next, the committee discussed the future of future procurements. And lastly, the committee received an update on campus projects, specifically the gym and plant buildings, gym and plant building roof replacements, the brick repairs to the humanities and careers buildings, the county's Broadneck Trail project, and the facilities master plan. And this concludes my report. Thank you, Chair Uvala.
Thank you, Trustee Moore. Any questions? Okay, then we will move on to Human Resources Committee and Trustee Stanton-Buttram.
Thank you, Chair Uvala. The Human Resources Committee met on Tuesday, March 26th. The committee first heard from Dr. Lindsay, and she delivered remarks regarding an update on SEIU. The first SEIU meeting for part-time workers will occur in the next few weeks. Additionally, AACC staff presented the workforce report, which will be presented during this meeting. Vice President Beardmore also provided a supplemental report to the committee's request for a question on tenure, which we greatly appreciate. Thank you for your prompt response, VP Beardmore. And the committee will next meet in June. Thank you. Any questions?
Any questions? Okay, moving right along, we'll go on back to back to Dr. Chen on Student Success Committee.
Thank you. The Student Success Committee met on April 1 to review the winter and spring 2024 credit enrollment update reports that will be presented at tonight's board meeting. This provided the committee with an opportunity to have an in-depth discussion about the reports. The committee also talked about strategies and initiatives the college is implementing to increase enrollment, retention, and student success. The next meeting will be in June when the committee will review and discuss student success metrics, learning outcomes, and program reviews. This concludes my report.
Any questions for Dr. Chen? Dr. Chen, we're going to have to give you time and a half this meeting because we're moving now to you, your report on the AACC Foundation.
Thank you, and I will have Trustee Gwynn read the letter from the student.
Dear donor, I am reaching out to thank your support through the Palace Foundation's Admiral Mike Mullins Scholarship for National Security. I am majoring in Homeland Security Management and Intelligence Analytics, and I'm scheduled to graduate this May. I have been paying for college completely on my own, and the stress has been overwhelming at times. My main academic goal is to earn my associate's degree at AACC while also studying and earning my Security Plus certificate. After I graduate from AACC, I plan on immediately attending UMGC to earn my bachelor's. Once I earn my Security Plus certificate and my bachelor's degree, I plan on pursuing a career in intelligence analytics with the FBI or CIA. This scholarship has been life-changing. As I said, I have been paying for college on my own and was always worried about the debt I would have if I chose to pursue my passion. I've always tried very hard in school and received good grades. Thanks to this scholarship, I can attend AACC, and I am on my way to reaching my academic goals. Receiving this scholarship support has not only relieved my stress, but it has showed me that hard work really does pay off. Thank you so much for making this scholarship opportunity possible for me. I will continue to work hard and receive the best grades I can. I look forward to an amazing future thanks to the education I am receiving at AACC and your generous support.
Thank you. The fundraising update, the AACC Foundation is extremely grateful for the collective support received from our generous donors. As of March 25th, 2024, the AACC Foundation's fundraising total is just over $3.38 million in gifts and commitments. Over the past month, the AACC Foundation received a $15,000 donation to support AACC's HelpLink and food pantry programs. In addition, we received a generous $15,000 scholarship gift to support students pursuing degrees in construction management or registered nursing. With regard to board activities, the AACC Foundation Board of Directors met on March 6th, where we were joined by Mr. Dalton Leonard. Dalton is a former AACC Radcliffe Scholarship and Business Pitch awardee. He owns Fantasy Aquariums. At our meeting, Dalton shared his story about how AACC and philanthropic support through the Radcliffe Foundation set him on a path to a successful career doing what he loves. He credits his success to the Entrepreneurial Studies program and the faculty at AACC. The board was inspired by his story. In addition, the board accepted the AACC's Foundation's 990 submission and authorized the auditing firm to file the document with the IRS. The board also set an endowed scholarship spend rate for the fiscal year 2025. This was one of the first steps in the budgeting process for the upcoming fiscal year. This concludes my report.
Do we have any questions for Dr. Chen? Okay, then the last of our committee work will be a report from the nominating committee. Trustee Moore?
Thank you, Trustee Uvala. The Board of Trustees bylaws state that prior to the April board meeting, the nominating committee shall communicate with all trustees to determine who is desirous of being considered for the office of chair or vice chair. An email was sent to the full board on March 19th, 2024, to all trustees, requiring a response if they desire to serve as the Board of Trustees Chair or Vice Chair. The nominating committee received 2 responses expressing interest in serving as Chair and Vice Chair. The nominating committee submits the names of Dr. Nadine Chen for the position of Board of Trustees Chair and Trustee Joyce Price Jones for the position of Vice Chair. Per the bylaws, the election of the Chair and Vice Chair will be at the May Board meeting. This concludes my report. Thank you, Chair Uvala.
Thank you, Trustee Moore. And that does conclude the committee reports for the board.
Thank you, Chair Uvala. This past month, I had the opportunity to attend some student events. On March 28th was the President's Opportunity Scholars Spring Forum, and I was pleased to welcome this year's cohort of students. Many thanks to the AACC Foundation, who provides this opportunity, in which each principal from each high school in the county nominates a student for this scholarship and support program. And this is about, they're looking for tenacity and commitment and passion and dedication as opposed to a GPA. So this is a little bit different from a scholarship perspective. On April the 2nd, I was pleased to host a luncheon with the Student Veteran Association Entrepreneurs Club and participants in MAC Student Advocacy Day. It was a great way for me to hear directly from the students about their experiences at our college and what is working for them and what we could maybe do better. On April the 3rd, along with the AACC Foundation, we were pleased to host the Palace Foundation and Admiral Mike Mullen on the Arnold campus. The Palace Foundation selected AAC as its first community college partner with the Mullen Scholarship Initiative, which provides scholarships and mentoring to students from underrepresented groups pursuing careers in national security. We were honored to have Admiral Mullen visit one of our Homeland Security classes and meet with our students. And earlier today, we celebrated our valedictorian candidates for our graduation ceremony for the upcoming year. I wish we had faculty that could be bugs on the wall and hear what was said, because the comments about our faculty and staff being so concerned, changing people's lives, helping people find direction, you couldn't walk out of that meeting and not feel really good. And I was joined by all of the vice presidents as well as our registrar. As a Board of Directors member for the American Association of Community Colleges, I attended the Board of Directors meeting and presented at the annual convention on April the 7th through 4th in Louisville, Kentucky. Dan Baum, Executive Director of Strategic Communications, and I presented a session about the college's performance coaching conversation model. It was a wonderful opportunity to highlight our work and talk about the transformations that have occurred as a result of this new performance evaluation process being much easier as well as much more engaging. It was actually really fun to work with Dan. He's great to interact with, and he did a really good job. We played evaluation. So Dr. Kelly McCants-Price, our Chief Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Officer, and Dr. Tiffany Boykin, our General Counsel, also presented about the strategies for balancing completing perspectives among campus constituent groups and the institutional compliance with state and federal laws. April is Community College Month. This year's theme is Cultivating Skills for the Future, and this month's community talking points for the board are included in your packet, and you will see a reflection of what supports April Community College Month as you're interacting with people in the community for the next month. So your talking points are included. And with that, I am ready to move into our enrollment update. Dr. Patterson.
Thank you, Dr. Lindsay. Good evening to the board. So tonight we'll be presenting the winter and spring credit enrollment report. We'll start with winter. The winter total head count represents the actual number of students enrolled in credit courses. So the 1,446 represents, the enrollment of 1,446 represents an increase of 53 students, up from 1,393 in winter of 2023. This next slide shows our winter total credit FTE. This summarizes by full-time equivalent. Just try to always remind you that the full-time equivalent is the number of credit hours divided by 30. Number of student credit hours, I'm so sorry, I can't speak tonight, divided by 30 credits. And credit by exam and FTE is also included. So you'll see with our winter FTE of 169, we're up 6 FTE from last year's 163, which is about 3.7%. This next slide shows our spring total credit head count. This spring, the college experienced an increase in headcount of 5.7%. The spring headcount of 10,236 represents an increase of 553 students. And for spring FTE, the 2,625 represents an increase of 7%, or 172 students from spring 2023. In this next slide, we look at the trend of new and returning students in each spring term. So we go back the 10 years, so from 2014 to 2024, you'll see how that increase of 553 breaks down. In spring 24, you'll see that there are 9,207 returning students on the blue bar, and these are students who have attended AACC sometime prior to spring 24. So compared to 2023, that's an increase of 5.93%, or 516 students. And you'll see on the orange section of the graph, we have 1,029 new students at AACC this spring. The increase in that number of new students is 3.7% between 2023 and 2024, or 37 students. If you look at our student body by age, you'll see that in the under 18 age group, that's represented by the green line at 12.2%. And then you'll look and see that on the gold yellow line is 18 to 19-year-olds at 25.4%. The students 20 to 24 are on the red line at 29.3%. And then 25 plus is at 33.2% on the blue line. The ratio of male to female enrollment is generally been pretty consistent, some slight increases, but you'll see, I'm sorry, I don't know, I'm having a little trouble here. Let me go back. So this is the spring credit head count for full and part-time status. So 76.7% are students who attended part-time. That's on the orange bar. You see a little bit of increase there. And then on the blue, 23.3% attending full-time. Okay, now here is spring credit by gender. So you'll see the ratio of male to female enrollment has been relatively consistent. 38.4% of our students are male on the blue bar as compared to 61.6% on the orange. And if we look at demographics, you'll see that 45.8% of our credit students identify as non-white. That's seen on the orange line. And then the blue line shows the 4,197 students who are minority. Those are self-reported students, so students who self-report that they're Asian, Black, African American, Hispanic, Pacific Islander, Native American, Alaskan Native, or other multiracial. This slide shows our spring credit headcount trends by race and ethnicity. So you'll see white at 48.6% on the purple, Black, African American, 18.4% on the gold. Unknown is 16.8% on the blue, so just remember they do self-report, so everyone's not reporting. Hispanic Latino is 11.6% on the green, and then Asian is 4.7% on the orange. Sure.
What does it tell us in terms of the, let's say, African Americans? You know, it's kind of constant, and then Hispanic came up. So somebody's growing because these are percentages, and somebody's not growing. Do we have any insight as to whether it was the Black African Americans or whether it was the Native, or whether it was the Hispanic?
Give me just 1 minute, I have that.
Now, is that the question I gave you to answer?
I could just tell you. So Hispanic students for spring increased by 153. Black African American students increased by 275. And, you know, it's white students who are declined by 42 in comparison. So, you know, our students of color are continuing to increase. Everyone's really continuing to increase.
Not to answer, but it seems to me that this gives us insight about where we need to be doing some things down the road, because we got one's dropping, the other one's going up, and both of them should be available and encouraged to go forward. But just generally giving that insight on the particular numbers, that's all.
Yeah, some of it is the demographics are changing, and that's just a nationwide phenomenon that we see, where you see that certain populations are increasing significantly, and we're seeing that in the county as well. So we'll have to continue to do the work that you're talking about to make sure that we're doing a good job reaching all populations.
Thanks. Thanks.
Okay. So here's our students that took at least one online course compared to last spring. So that number on the blue line is 6,094 students took at least one online course. That represents 59.5% of credit students. For hybrid courses, 1,560 took at least one hybrid course, which represents 15.2% of our students. And this slide shows the high school students duly enrolled at the college. As you all know, we've seen quite a bit of an increase with the Blueprint students. So you'll note that the increase in spring 2024 of 228 from 1,552 to 1,780. And then this spring, there were 69 less other dually enrolled students and 297 more early college access program students. So that really just depends on who's receiving the tuition waiver. And some of that's going to just fluctuate kind of naturally with other dually enrolled students. And the retention data, of course, is lagging, but you see our fall 2022 to 2023 retention at 60.4%, and then our fall to spring retention rate is at 73.9%. And again, those are first-time degree or certificate-seeking students who are returning. And then this, I think, last slide, which is probably good, is how we map students by place of residence. So if you start at Noon, Glen Burnie, those are the two zip codes that are at 730 and 508. Pasadena is the 1018. Severna Park is 484. Arnold is also at 484. Annapolis is 442. That 330 number is also Annapolis, Sherwood Forest. So that's also an Annapolis zip code. The 526 now is Crofton, 603 is Odenton, and Severn is at 581. And then most of the students, one of the questions that came up in the Student Success Committee meeting was what programs students are enrolled in. Students are largely enrolled in transfer studies. They're also, probably next would be the non-degree students, and then nursing, business come, right after that. So, and that's pretty consistent across the board, although South County, you'll see a lot of those students who are dual enrollment students. Thank you. Good.
And now, a workforce report. Jim Boyer, our Executive Director for Human Resources, is going to take the floor.
Good evening. Thank you for the opportunity to present information regarding our workforce. The workforce report is an in-depth look at our employee data comparing 2023 workforce data against previous years and some comparisons with other institutions. The data is either shown as a snapshot on October 31st or December 31st of each year. The full report, which you have, captures compensation metrics, workforce characteristics and activity, as well as training and education. The purpose of this report is to gather valuable information about where the college stands in regards to compensating, diversifying, and retaining our employees. Each year, we share this report with the Board of Trustees HR Committee, the full board, and then subsequently the college community. So thank you specifically to Rebecca Albert in the HR office and the institutional research and assessment teams who provided a lot of information and a lot of help with this report. The report in summary shows that our total workforce has increased 5.6% between 2021 and 2023. Just over a quarter of our workforce identifies as a race other than white. Most of our employees are over the age of 44, and half of those are over the age of 59. We continue to increase the applicants for open positions that identify themselves as a race other than white. In 2023, we had over 4,000 applicants for positions, and 44% of those reported themselves as a race other than white. The next slides will go into some more detail. This chart showing our total workforce by classification represents people, not positions. The data reflects employees on October 31st of each year, and the purpose of this is, for the purposes of this report, temporary employees are not included. You may notice a reduction in faculty from 2021 to 2023. While there were 234 faculty in 2021, there were 227 in 2023. For faculty vacancies, we usually only recruit in the fall. So if a faculty position becomes vacant, we leave them vacant until we begin the recruiting process. For the upcoming 24-25 academic year, we only have 3 faculty retirements that have been announced, but we're recruiting for 11 new faculty members. 8 of those 11 positions as of today are filled, and the remaining 3 are in the final stages of those recruitment processes. There's also a small change in our administrators. In 2023, we did do a reclassification to move all directors in grade 13 or above to an ASO position. There was also an increase because there were ASO positions vacant on 10/31/22 that were subsequently filled by 10/31/23. From 2021 to 2023, the diversity of the workforce has increased from 25.5% to 27.4%. This speaks to the college's continuing efforts to hire a more diverse workforce. In comparison to Anne Arundel County demographics, AACC is quite similar. White residents represent 71.4% of the county population. Another data point is the age of our workforce. AACC has a higher percentage of baby boomers within our workforce than the national average. Based on 2020 data, the national average of baby boomers is 20%, and we have 28.2% of our employees that are baby boomers. Our employees most closely resemble the national average for Generation X individuals at 37.7 compared to 35.5 nationally. The college has 29.2% of Generation Y individuals, while the national average is higher at 39.4%. The importance of this chart is that our workforce is older than the national average. This impacts us in many ways, including a need for succession planning. As the traditionalists and baby boomers retire, we will continue likely to hire more Generation Y and Z employees who have a different set of values and needs from their employer. This slide speaks to our applicants. Please note we're lacking the data for 2022 because we were in the process of changing applicant tracking systems. We now have successfully integrated with PageUp and are currently and consistently working with that vendor to implement more data analytics and fine-tune the way that we require data completion to maintain consistency throughout all of our vendors and internal practices. We saw a rise in total applications in the calendar year 2023 for faculty, staff, temporary, and part-time employee positions to just over 4,000. In 2023, we saw a trend that only 10% of the applicants did not disclose their race in the application process, as compared to 23% in 2021. And 44% of our applicants in 2023 described themselves as a race other than white. There are a few other areas I'd like to highlight from the workforce report. 67 faculty and staff were promoted, awarded a career ladder promotion, or a professional recognition award. All of these actions resulted in a compensation increase for the actual employee. Back to the age discussion we had a few minutes ago, exactly half of our employees are retirement eligible. This closely correlates to what we just talked about with our population being 30% traditionalist or baby boomers. Retirement eligible means that the employee has a minimum of 10 years of AACC college service, and the employee meets the requirements under the Maryland State Retirement System or the optional retirement program. We've seen an interesting trend. The number of people retiring is decreasing. In 2021, we had 27. In 2022, we had 26. And in 2023, only 16. We think this is due to a couple things. Market fluctuation, certainly, the loss in the market, increased inflation, and the general cost of living that people are experiencing. It may also be due to the larger salary increase we received in July of 2023. The workforce report shows that AACC continues to offer competitive salaries and retain employees while encouraging continued education and creating paths to promotion. The college continues to diversify the workforce and the applicant pool each year. We will develop action items based on this data for the coming year, especially as we begin the new strategic plan for FY26. We will continue to review strategies surrounding employee engagement and our DEIA recruiting goals. Thank you.
So you talked about analytics. There are two reasons why you might get it. One might be so you can understand what happened in the past.
Right.
But I think more important is having projections of what happened in the future, how you can maybe optimize them to be an advantage. So maybe you look at analytics, you can kind of decide how was it, what was the purpose of the analytics.
Yeah, thank you.
I have a couple of questions. Can you expand on what is the college's succession planning plan?
There's not a formal succession plan. Certainly, we look at each position when it comes up for recruitment. We take a look at the structure of the department. We also look at who is involved in that department, but there's not a formal succession planning process.
Is that something maybe you should look at, for example, if you know that a dean is getting ready
Absolutely.
to retire? Because that leads into my second question, which is, since our job is to worry about the budget, we've had pay raises, which we've have concerns about the sustainability of.
Sure.
So the succession planning, not having to go to the outside to recruit, for example, a dean, but be able to promote from within. And also, how is your generational data, how do you feel, because the different generations, I think, look at their jobs differently. Baby boomers probably being more loyal, perhaps, than the
Absolutely.
younger generations. Are you taking that into account in terms of what impact that is going to have on our ability to retain and recruit?
So to the first question regarding looking internally for recruitment, so currently the practice is that for any position that's at an administrator level, there's an external recruitment done. There certainly has been lots of conversation with the administration about the benefit and the downside of doing that. So you're bringing in new talent, you're bringing in potential diversity when you're doing that, and so there's a positive piece of that. That is something that we can continue to look at. Internal applicants are still always encouraged to apply, but we don't usually narrow that pool to just an internal applicant because you won't increase the diversity if you do that. Remind me the second part of the question, sorry, I was
The
focused on that.
generational
Oh,
question.
yes, yes. So I think that something that is really important that the team is really going to focus on is this idea of employee engagement and looking at what motivates each group of employees. And you're right, every age bracket tends to have different things that motivate them. So your comment about baby boomers potentially being more loyal maybe than a Generation X employee. I think that what's going to be important is for us to survey our workforce to find out what it is that is important to them. What we have found is that the younger employees are more interested in health and wellness and balance. So they want to do a good job, and the job is important to them along with their career progression, but they want to have balance. They don't want to have to spend 60 hours a week at work. And they want you also, interestingly enough, to know that the employer cares about them. That's very important, which may not necessarily be so important to someone who is older. They really want to feel that you understand them, and you appreciate them, and you value them.
Thank you, very
You're welcome.
helpful.
You're welcome.
Okay, we have no report from academic forum/council. We have no report from administrative staff organization. We have no report from professional support staff organization. So with that, I'm going to ask Zach Lester, President of the Student Government Association, to please come forward with his report.
Good evening, Chair Uvala and the board. Good evening, President Lindsay. Over this spring semester so far, the Student Government Association has expanded our advocacy around campus and in the community. From telling our stories at Student Advocacy Day in February to making the student voice heard in the development of college policies and procedures, we continue to fight for our constituents. From the capital to the campus, we continue to offer insight and share our experiences to make communities better for all. Since we last met, I've led the team in providing comments on the disability accommodations and procedures for development of college policies and procedures. By helping Anne Arundel Community College becoming more accessible and accountable place for all, we become more of a community that people want to be a part of, and we begin to live up to our name. As part of this goal, the SGA partnered with the IDEO Office for Inclusive Excellence to create more variety in our diversity programming on campus, collaborating to host the Irish Flicks and Flavors event for Irish Heritage Month, where students were able to eat traditional Irish food, enjoy a movie, and discuss afterward the depiction of Irish Americans in pop culture and the struggles of Irish immigrants. This conversation helped us all understand how assumptions about others can control how we treat them and apply it to other situations. By making our college community more welcoming and inclusive, we make our college more equipped to address the needs of our students and attract more to AACC. Through our advocacy and commitment to inclusivity, the 2023-2024 SGA will leave behind a legacy of community that will help next year's executive board better represent the diversity of our student body. As part of this legacy building, SGA began our election season last week with open nominations for the 2024-2025 term, receiving nominations for all but 2 positions, much more engagement than previous years. This level of involvement is a testament to the engagement we have worked with our allies to create at AACC, truly bringing our campus back to life from the hibernation of the pandemic. By the end of April, we will have certified the results of the election and have the student leaders of tomorrow determined and published so that we can begin handing off the torch to our successors. As part of this process, I will lead the team in creating and revamping our training documents so the transition is streamlined and effective for next year's SGA. With the end of the year upon us, it brings a busy time for my team as well as everyone here. But I believe that we are all up to this task. I believe this because this time not only brings deadlines and busy schedules, but also a season of celebration. And as part of these celebrations, Trustee Gwen and I will be the host for the Impact and Excellence Awards ceremony at the end of the month, and I will also be speaking at this year's graduation ceremonies. Here at AACC, we call our graduation commencement because even though it is the end of some of our times here at AACC, it is the beginning of the next step after community college for students like myself. With that said, I would like to thank the board and Dr. Lindsay for the opportunity to present my report. Thank you. Do you have any questions for me? All right, thank you.
Up next, faculty organization director.
Good evening, Chair Uva, Dr. Lindsay, and board members. This is a microscopic report. TFL is also in the process of concluding senator elections and holding officer elections for the next academic year. The main thing that I wanted to highlight is that we do have a proposed charter change that has now made it through the Senate and is being voted on by the wider body of TFO that involves including instructional staff in TFO for matters that directly affect classroom and therefore directly affect those individuals. Thank you for allowing me the opportunity to report. Do you have any questions for me?
I will conclude with the Maryland Association of Community College activities, which is concludes my report.
Thank you, Dr. Lindsay. Do we have any new business to come before the board? All right. Our next board meetings will be Tuesday, May 7th at 4:30. That'll be a brief open session to vote to close the meeting, to consult with counsel to obtain legal advice pursuant, and to consult with staff, consultants, or other individuals about pending or potential litigation. And then Tuesday, May 14th at 4 p.m., a public session meeting followed by a board professional development training that you already heard about from our trustees. So that's what you have on your calendars, I hope. Yes, Dr. Johnson, do you have closing comment? Yeah, thank you, sir. Let the record show that Dr. Johnson has it on his calendar. Since we are not adjourning to closed session after this meeting, unless I hear an objection, we will go with the unanimous consent to adjourn this meeting. Thank you.